Emisión.net.
Hello again and welcome once again to Letter from England. I'm sorry we were away for a week, but we're back, broadcasting under the auspices of the Spanish Evangelical Alliance for AC Press. This week comes the news from a firm of consultants in London, Ficht, who have come up with the idea that the right labels or makes of products that people buy has almost become a religious phenomenon. They've noted a parallel between what shopping centres represent today and what places of worship once meant to people. They quote the figure of 1 million people who have apparently stopped attending church in recent years, and say that pretty much these million people are now out shopping instead. They go on to say that shopping's heaven is the range of the most expensive labels or makes, which can only be afforded by a few. Then comes purgatory, those products which are affordable to the middle classes, and finally hell, which is the situation faced by those who do not have enough money to buy any prestigious makes at all. Well, this rather interesting way of looking at shopping as the new religion, which of course many people have observed in recent years, was taken up recently by Jaume Llenas, the General Secretary of the Spanish Evangelical Alliance, at a talk he gave in Barcelona University, under the title, I Belong to a Designer Label. He said that makes or labels are currently a religious phenomenon, as the consultants have said, and argue that we must present a culture based on who we are, not on what we've got. And Llenas concluded saying, my label is Christ. He also pointed out that today's shopping centres are what the cathedrals were to people in the Middle Ages, huge buildings where people flock in their time off. Near where I'm living now, in Manchester, one of the largest shopping centres in the city is indeed designed, particularly when seen from the outside, to look rather like a basilica, and there's probably more than a point being made there. Shopping is taking up more and more of people's, dare I call it, leisure time, taking up perhaps what should be family time. And Llenas says that people must learn to enjoy themselves without worshipping consumerism. Makes or labels actually seek to sell themselves rather than the actual product. What matters to many people these days is the make or the label on the product rather than the product itself. Particularly so, I think, in the case of teenagers, and producers, of course, know this. Teenagers are people who, by their very adolescence, are seeking their own identity, trying to define who they are, both to themselves and to their peers. And the right labels, designer labels if you like, give them one. That young person can then build an identity around the label that he or she has got, and develops a certain lifestyle and lives by the values that go with it. Llenas in his talk quoted Amos 8, where the prophet deals with exactly the consumer situation we face today, where commerce deceives us in this way, where the quality of the product is unimportant, and where what counts is simply to sell. It's a very modern message. Quoting Llenas, they used false measures to measure the grain and ripped off the farmers. And as Christians, we must present a culture based on who we are, not on what we've got, as we said earlier. The issue then is, what gives us value? Christians are those whom the Creator has valued so much that he sent his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, to die for us. So Christians are a designer label to God, and that's why Llenas can say that my label is Christ, and that's something that no one can take from me. Well, I wonder, are we promoting this culture? Are we seeking to give our children and our churches a different identity, to promote the label that is Christ, not just as a label, of course, but as a genuine spiritual and personal identity? Quoting Llenas once more, as believers, we shouldn't encourage the purchase of goods from firms who are engaged in malpractice, such as child labour abuse. Rather, we have to promote a leisure culture not based so much on buying, but on alternative activities. Well, undoubtedly the phenomenon of designer labels is everywhere, even amongst believing Christians. I think I agree with you, that it's not so much that we must not buy certain labels, but that they should not become so important to us that they define our identity. And as countercultural Christians, we may have to make some hard-nosed decisions not to go with the flow when it comes to buying certain products, when it comes to not buying certain labels or makes, either because of the malpractice that we think or we know they're involved in, or perhaps because of the excessive cost attached to certain designer labels, or simply to promote those alternative activities and to demote shopping in our order of priorities and to use our leisure time and perhaps other time as well for more profitable activities, family life, church life, and simply our own lives as well, personal witness, and so on and so forth. Christians cannot possibly have a better label than Christ, and he is the one that we should be not just wearing on our lapels, but wearing in our hearts, and to use a more biblical metaphor, clothed with his righteousness, with his goodness, with his justice. Well, may God help us to break the cycle of consumerism in our own lives and to model an alternative lifestyle far removed from the secular labels of today in our lives and in our churches. Thank you again for listening to a letter from England broadcasting for AC Press, which can be found on emission.net or at the magazine website protestantdigital.com. Goodbye for now.
Emisión.net